As
Well,
always,
good morning.
can I ask you to take a moment to like and subscribe to this show if you...
Right, I'm here. Good morning and welcome to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and it's show number 580. It's Sunday the 30th of November, and it's a lovely sunny day out here at the moment on the last day of autumn. So we do have a packed show for you as usual today. We'll start with a story about a young rider who set up a safety foundation after seeing two friends die in bike crashes. Apparently he was on the scene for one of them. It's been very distressing. A Southampton teenager, though, has been caught riding through a park with a toddler on the handlebars, on the tank of his off-road bike, neither of whom wearing helmets. I don't know how you get a helmet for a one-year-old anyway. Bristol, the local bike theft awareness group, are joining the police and crime commissioner as well as police in a summit to tackle the problem of bike theft, and they're inviting owners to attend that meeting. And then we'll have a look at some news around the world in brief, before moving on to look at some motorcycles. And we've got three scooters today, two identikit scooters from Aprilia and Sym, and then a twin cylinder, unusual, adventure scooter from Voge. We'll have a look at a self-charging solar e-moto, which can apparently roam free of both plug-in points and, of course, petrol pumps. And as it's the kind of silly season with the stuff being shown off for bike shows and things, we'll have a look at a suitcase scooter and a wearable bike suit. You won't believe that one. And then finally, I'm going to take an in-depth look at Honda's V3R 900 E-Compressor concept bike. We'll have a look at that. It may be, it's being spoken of as a major leap in motorcycle technology, but is it actually aimed at power now? Or is it actually an attempt to future-proof the internal combustion engine? We'll have a look at those various ideas at the end of the show in the last segment. So make yourselves a brew. Stay with me for the next 40 odd minutes as I run through my live Elevenses webcast. Right, okay. Let's just start with a shout out to last week's supporters and subscribers. Oh, that's the wrong list. Hang on. Get the right one up in a minute. There it is. So last week's supporters and subscribers, thank you all very much for your help contributing to keeping the show going. Dave, Helen, Roger, who downloaded my advanced riding in 500 rides free guide. We donated £1 towards that, which is very generous of you. Brian, Smike, who took an ebook copy of my survival skills book on better riding. Mike, Nafa, Sue, Kay Simmons, and Anonymous, of course. So thanks to all of you for your support. Very much appreciated indeed. Right, now then, let's get on with the first part of today's show. And I just want to bring in an item that appeared on the Crash Detectives show, which the BBC One have been showing. Now, you can catch it on iPlayer. The incident that I'm going to talk about happened in May 2022 and involved a Swedish couple, Johan Takats and Helena Engstrom. They unfortunately crashed on a slip road at the junction with the A449 near Raglan in Wales. Now, the BMW 1250 GS was equipped with the automated SOS system, and that the crash was detected, and that triggered a call response from BMW's emergency centre. Now, it seems that the riders themselves were too badly injured to answer the call that the emergency centre sends to the bike to ensure that it's not just, somebody dropped the bike whilst parking it or something. And so the emergency service centre then sent a call through to the emergency services, and what they're able to do is use the onboard tracking that the bike has using GPS coordinates to send the emergency services to the precise location of the crash. Now, this isn't exactly new technology, but it's not something that's on every bike, that's for sure. Now, forensic collision investigator PC Richie Wyatt, he said that thanks to this crash detection system on the bike, they probably got help, he said, more quickly than if they were having to describe their location. Now, that is, I know from personal experience, a major problem facing someone reporting a crash. Now, I myself was on the phone to emergency services back in 1998. We were caught up in the immediate confusion of a collision on the A303. What happened was the car directly in front of us collided head on with a car coming the other way on a single carriageway stretch of the A303. Now, if you know that particular road, you'll know that it runs across Salisbury Plain, and there are long stretches of it which are actually very featureless. There are no road signs or anything to help you, no side turnings that you can read a sort of name off. And it's also a long way between junctions which are signposted to towns. You simply don't pass through anywhere for a very long stretch indeed. So I really had no idea where we were. I couldn't really say within 10 or 12 miles. In the event, the police solved this problem by sending a car from both directions up the road, and they found us that way. They arrived more or less simultaneously, actually. And they also scrambled the air ambulance, which located the problem fairly quickly and landed almost at the same time as the police cars arrived. Now, fortunately, there were no life-threatening injuries, despite the scale of the impact, which was very, very heavy indeed. And a third car, which clipped the sort of wreckage in the middle of the road, actually went airborne and landed on its roof in the field beside the road. So a really scary situation to be in the middle of. Anyway, we missed everything. And as an aside, for those people who claim that a 2-second gap is big enough to react as the car ahead brakes, something that's happened on a post I made recently, these people have clearly never considered just how rapidly two cars traveling at 50 miles an hour both stop when they hit each other head on. Think about it. Anyway, back to the crash. PC Wyatt reconstructed the crashed bike's movements, and he ruled out excessive speed, but he found that the road surface on the inside lane of this tight left-hand bend slip road was actually badly damaged, and basically lorry tires have been scrubbing stone chips out of the surface, and this gravel, this debris, had spread to the outside edge of the outside lane. And he found the debris to be the sole causative factor of the collision, which he said is relatively rare. Now, I watched the episode after I read about it, but I honestly think that analysis actually raised more questions than it answered. Although the rider clearly lost control when he hit the gravel, you can see the tyre marks running through it and what looks like the PC said his feet going down. It almost certainly caused the crash, but the gravel was on the outside of the outside lane. So there was actually quite a lot of tarmac, which he could have ridden over. The damaged surface wasn't great, but the outside lane was, in reasonably good condition. But having run into the gravel, he had nowhere to go but into the barrier. But, the question I asked immediately was, what was the rider doing on the outside of the outside lane in the first place, running onto the gravel? It looked to me all the signs of a rider running wide in the bend. Now, why that might have been was never actually addressed. My guess, it was a combination of not expecting the bend to go on so long. I think the crash actually happened on what is a 270-degree loop, where one road connects to the other, and it looks from the diagrams, from the sort of Google Maps view, that it does actually tighten up progressively. It's a decreasing radius curve. That's my guess. It's possible that PC Wyatt actually did mention this, but it just got cut out in the editing process of the show. Anyway, decreasing radius bends like this, they are quite common on slip roads, which is a very, very good reason for not running into a slip road too fast. And they're relatively easy to cope with in the car. You simply brake as you steer, but that's never quite so easy on a motorcycle. And incidentally, there were no signs of the rider's ABS kicking in. So even if he was running wide, he obviously didn't brake hard. Sadly for both riders, they live near Malmo. They both needed surgery for serious injuries. and they spent 2 weeks at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff before they were moved back to Sweden, where they continued to undergo treatment, and they actually had to spend a year recovering from this, but they are back on 2 wheels. Now, if you want to watch it, it's towards the end of episode 6, series 5. Now, talking of riders crashing, is imitation the sincerest form of flattery? In some ways, I would say it is. And the latest in this sort of flattery corner is Mark McVeigh's latest blog post, which is entitled Why Do Motorbike Riders Crash? Now, he references something called the 5 whys. Now, that's a structured framework for problem solving linked to Toyota. And I'm pretty darn sure that Duncan McKillop has talked about this in the past when we have been discussing the no surprise framework. McVeigh also lists Keith Code's well-known survival reactions in full, but gives no credit to Casey for having come up with the ideas in the first place. And there are several references to how pilot training has changed the view of safety. And if you follow me regularly, you'll know that that's something that I have been talking about for well over a decade now. If you want to read it, it's here. I'll just put the link up for you. It is a well-argued piece. No argument with that at all. It's well written. It's clear. But I kind of wish that he acknowledged that other people have been working in the same field that he's now exploring for years, rather than presenting all these ideas as his own. There's no reason we can't pool knowledge, for sure. I mean, motorcycle training would be better for it, I'm sure. But, it would help if we actually did talk about who came up with some of these ideas. Anyway, I was out delivering my own talks. As the way in the world, I've learned that that many ideas are applicable to motorcycling. So I've pulled in work from different fields and put them into my own original talks. But in these talks, I do discuss Keith Code's idea of survival reactions, for example, but I give him full credit for that. And I credit Stephen Haley with the concept of the surprise horizon. And I even mentioned the unknown, long disappeared US instructor who came up with the term vision block, which I think is a really crucial concept. I do claim killing zone for myself, though. Anyway, here is me talking to the group in Dorchester on Wednesday night. This was at the rugby club, lovely venue actually. Dorset Advanced Motorcyclists, miracle of miracles. It only rained just as we arrived at our overnight accommodation after the drive down there, and it was a very successful evening. There were around 80 people altogether in the hall for my was not in roadcraft talk. Now, amongst the audience was the IAM's Sean Cronin, and he seemed to have enjoyed the talk, came up to me and spoke to me for quite a few minutes afterwards. And as he said, it's good to get a different perspective from time to time from someone outside the IAM. Now, next morning, we took a short drive off to the village church, having been given a tip-off about some stained glass windows there. But they turned out not to be stained at all, but rather unique, clear etched glass. It seems that the church, which is in the middle of nowhere, really, was actually hit by a stray bomb in 1940, which is rather strange. But anyway, it was rebuilt after the war, and hence the unusual etched glass windows. But what was notable was it was turned out to be the burial place of one T.E. Shaw, who you probably better know as T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. Now, he survived the First World War only to be killed in a motorcycle crash nearby. We didn't manage to find the grave because it turned out it's in an adjunct to the main cemetery, which isn't obvious from the church itself, and we didn't actually spot it until we're back in the car and driving away. Anyway, on the way back, we went to Blandford Forum and for a wander, and in the town museum we actually found this very unusual statue of the man himself. It's actually made of paper. And then Friday it was off down to Hampshire and a combined IAM Rosper group, Twyford, just south of Winchester. And again, we took the opportunity there to stop in the city and snuck into the cathedral just before it closed to visitors. From the outside, it looks rather plain, in fact, but the interior, I have to say, is absolutely stunning. Anyway, on to the talk that evening. That was split into 2 sessions, the first being what's not in roadcraft, and the second was a shortened version of my crash course, as in how not to talk. And they were both well received too. I've been invited back for another session sometime next year, and I've also been invited to go talk to a group in Yeovil. So it does seem like I'm finding myself another career path here, even if it is rather late on in my working life. Anyway, let's move on to the weather. And what can I tell you about the weather for the week? Well, it doesn't. It's a mixed bag again. This afternoon, much of the UK will be mainly dry. Plenty of bright spells. I said there's lovely cloudless sky here at the moment in London. Northern Ireland, though, it will turn cloudier and breezier as the afternoon goes on, and rain will arrive from the west by evening as winds pick up. And it will be quite chilly today. Now, much of the south and the west of the UK will see heavy and persistent rain tomorrow, Monday, and there will be a risk of flooding in South Wales, where it's already been very wet, so there could be weather warnings out for that area. Temperatures will be quite high, actually, sort of high, low single figures up to possibly 14 in the southeast, and rain will likely be lighter further south and east you go. Now, Tuesday sees widespread showers across western and northern areas. Some will run across into the south along the south coast, but it should stay drier and brighter to the east of the country. Wednesday sees cloudy conditions to the north and west again. Patchy rain, showers moving in at times from the west, but much of the east is likely to stay mostly dry. For Thursday and Friday, it looks like more bands of rain arriving and travelling across the UK. Okay, so on to some news then. Now, the first one's quite an interesting story, and this is about a 20-year-old who gave up motorcycling after he lost 2 friends in separate crashes within a matter of months last year. He has set up a new foundation which aims to teach young people specifically about road safety. It's called The Next Mile. He set it up with a friend called Donovan Weir, and he's also engaged with Charlotte Robertson, who is the older sister of Archie, who is one of the riders who died in those crashes. So Charlie Green from Tenterden in Kent said that, quote, "It got to a point where I didn't feel ready or comfortable anymore, and I decided to redirect my passion towards helping and educating others." And he says he hopes that by speaking about his experiences, he can educate young road users. And he's already given talks, including one at a local school, and he hopes to expand to delivering his presentation to more venues in the future, and he wants to produce his own website to share the message. Charlie says, "I remember being that age and brushing off those sorts of talks because you do think you're invincible, but I always go in thinking that if even one kid in that room of several hundred remembers what I've said, that's a win," and it's certainly been more than that. I do wish him luck with this. I kind of see his point. The demographic at my own safety presentations is mostly towards the what we might call more mature end of the spectrum, in years at least, even if not in attitude to riding sometimes. And I know that getting the message across to youngsters is a real issue. So good luck to him there. Now, a teenager has been reported for a string of offences after riding a Honda off-road motorcycle through Mansell Park in Southampton, with a 1-year-old toddler sat on the front of the bike. Now, neither were wearing helmets when officers from the Redbridge neighbourhood team stopped the bike on Thursday, November the 28th. The 17-year-old was predictably without a license or insurance, and the bike was seized. Oddly enough, in the talk on Friday, one of the people who came up and spoke to me afterwards was a magistrate from Southampton, and he actually talked about the difficulties that they are having with the numbers of riders who are riding bikes illegally at the moment. Now, source of some of these bikes, of course, is from theft. And Bristol's Bike Theft Awareness Group, BBTA, they are to meet with the Crime Commissioner Claire Moody, along with several senior police officers, because bike thefts in and around Bristol are on the rise again. Now, the campaign group, many of whom have had their own bikes stolen, say that the tactics of the young bike stealing gangs has changed. Excuse me. And they are now selling the bikes on that they steal rather than just riding them around, then dumping them. The summit, to which concerned bike owners around Bristol are invited, is taking place at the BAWA venue in Filton tomorrow evening. That's Monday, December the 1st, if you're watching on catch up. Now, in response to a similar sort of spike in the number of the motorcycles being taken, back in 2018, the police set up Operation Buell, excuse me, to target these bike-taking gangs. Now, what they were doing, of course, was flaunting what they were doing on social media. And showing off videos of them riding the stolen bikes. Now, the result of Operation Buell was actually a 70% reduction in bike theft in 12 months. And Paul Walker from the BBTA team, he says things aren't quite as bad this time around, but they are serious enough.
As always, can I ask you to take a moment to like and subscribe to this show if you've not already done so? Every click helps other motorcyclists discover my content, or simply share the word the old-fashioned way by telling your riding buddies about Elevenses. They can watch on catch-up. Remember, my latest riding skills articles are always free, and you can get all the links delivered weekly to your email inbox by subscribing to my newsletter at survivalskills.substack.com, or you can use this QR code to jump straight to it when the show's over, of course. No spam, and if you don't like the content, unsubscribe at any time. Right, okay, hopefully I have coughed myself out. So into the news in brief from the UK and around the world. A driver from Powys who took friends on a pub crawl in his Range Rover drank 11 pints of cider and a chaser apparently on September the 20th in 2023 before colliding with a motorcycle, killing one teenager and leaving the other with an amputated leg. Danny Francis was jailed at Shrewsbury Crown Court. He'll serve 7 years after pleading guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and causing serious injury by dangerous driving. A man in his 20s who attempted to evade a police stop by reversing into a police motorcycle has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Norfolk police had tried to stop him in Wisbech on Thursday morning as part of an operation tackling traffic offences. A 10-minute chase ensued before the car crashed into a hedge. The driver in his 20s was arrested at the scene, and he's also been charged with dangerous driving, theft of a motor vehicle, and driving with excess drugs. Fortunately, the police motorcyclist only needed treatment for minor injuries. A woman rider who sped away from police officers at speeds of up to 110 miles per hour on her Honda CBR in July. She's been found guilty in her absence at Llanelli Magistrates Court on charges of driving without due care and attention and driving without a license or insurance. Alice Fox of Mysecoid had entered no plea to any of the charges. Castle Boom Circuit has apologised after a Christmas market held on Sunday, November 23rd. Received dozens of complaints it did not meet expectations. The event promised to be an unforgettable seasonal day out for all the family, with the racetrack being transformed into a winter wonderland. But one visitor described it as being more like Nightmare on Elm Street than Miracle on 34th Street, which I have to say is a pretty funny line. Another wrote, "It was truly awful. I've never been to such a dire Christmas market." In Colombia, social media influencer Karen Sofia Quiroz Ramirez, better known as Bike Girl, has died after crashing into a car, then being hit by a lorry. Just hours before the accident, she posted to her 45,000 social media followers that, "I hope I don't crash because I'm driving without my glasses." Her followers interpreted this as a premonition. Sylvain Gintoli, the motorcycle racer, is planning to run in next year's London Marathon in a one-piece leather suit in memory of his son Luca, with the aim of raising money for the PASIC cancer support charity. And he says he's got a lot of training to do. Hanoi stepped back from a full-on ban on gasoline-powered motorcycle use in the low-emission zone that is going into effect in July next year. The ban will be enforced during certain hours or within designated areas of Ring Road number 1. Full details to follow. And the scheme will also apparently include vehicles operating on application platforms, which I'm assuming means food delivery bikes. Cars that do not meet level 4 emission standards will also be restricted, and it is expected that Hanoi will eventually move to a full ban on ICE vehicles in the centre of the city. Now, over in the Punjab, another emission-busting step has taken place as the local councils announced a full ban on the production of petrol-powered rickshaws, this kind of thing that you see here. And under the new policy, only electric and hybrid vehicles, including electric motorcycles, will be allowed to be designed into these rickshaws. There'll also be a ban on petrol-engined bikes being used for government use. And as an aside to this, vehicle washing at homes is now banned to conserve water use in the state. Right, okay, let's get some bike news in, and that'll be the graphic for that. So it seems like the MIDI scooter is back. Now, for years, about the only scooter bigger than the 125 that I can recall was the Bergman 400. Then Honda released the ADV 350 a couple of years ago. I'm sure scooter experts will, of course, tell me that I've forgotten some classic Vespers or something. But those are the ones that stick in my mind. But the Milan show saw several new bikes. I do apologise. I still managed to get hay fever in the middle of the winter. But several new bikes in this class have appeared at the Milan show. So let's have a look at two of them. Let me give you a zoom-in view on those two. You're probably struggling to tell them apart, really. I'll start with the top bike there, because that one is from Aprilia. The other one is from Sym. So if I can zoom in on that a bit and pull the top one down into screen, there it is. This is the new SRGT 400. It's a 400cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine. Now, this is mounted on the swing arm, conventional sort of scooter style. Produces a claimed 35.5 horsepower at 7,500 RPM, 27.8 pound-feet, 37.7 Newton meters of torque at 5,700. Despite the modest output, Aprilia gives it traction control with 2 levels of intervention, and that can also be disabled. Now, up front, the suspension is a 41mm upside down fork. There are twin gas shocks at the rear of the sort of steel double cradle frame. Both ends get 120mm of travel, so reasonable amount. Wheels are 16 and 14 inch, and they're fitted with dual sport tyres. A single disc front and rear. They get Bosch, as I said, ABS. This also gets 2 maps, and it can be completely disabled on the rear wheel. Data, 5-inch TFT, full LED, triple headlight system. Aprilia's missing in action connectivity system is standard on the Rally Replica version, and that links your smartphone to the vehicle via Bluetooth. And there's keyless ignition and an electronic anti-theft system. Now, Aprilia boldly claim best power to weight ratio in the segment, but they do have some competition from the second machine, which is the ADXTG 400, even if it does weigh in at 213 kilos. So this is the Sym. Let's get that zoomed in on for you. There it is. Now, this is a company with a much longer history, over 6 decades actually, of building scooters than I was ever aware of. It goes back to a joint venture with Honda way back in the early 1960s, which means they actually predate Aprilia by a few years. The Italian brand began building bikes in the late 1960s. I was quite surprised to discover that when I looked it up. So anyway, nevertheless, this is the first adventure style scooter from Sym, and power comes from a 399cc single overhead cam, single cylinder engine, and this produces 34.4 horsepower and 27.3 pound-feet, 37 newton meters of torque. So just 1 horsepower down on the Aprilia. But what sets this one apart from the scooter like Aprilia is that the engine is centrally mounted. You can see the exhaust system there goes right forward. So instead of being on the swing arm, it's mounted to the frame under the rider, and it does make the bike a little bit taller to step over, but it does allow a motorcycle style aluminium swing arm, and that allows the designers to fit in a multi-link monoshock rear suspension layout, which would be very similar to the sort of thing you find on a typical motorcycle. And it also helps centralize the weight distribution. Scooters tend to be a bit rear heavy, and the bigger the engine, of course, the more weight there is towards the rear. And this is said to play a big role in improving the bike's stability and handling. Now, it gets a 15-inch front, 14-inch rear wheel, single discs, dual channel Bosch ABS. Rear ABS can be switched off for trail riding, and there's traction control that can also be toggled on and off. And the engine area is protected by a bash plate in case you're on uneven terrain. This machine comes with a smart locking system, full LED lighting, an adjustable screen, handguards, USB charging ports, and an LCD instrument panel. Under the seat, there is a 32-litre storage area with room for a full face helmet, and there's a 790mm seat height. Now, as I said earlier, Aprilia claimed the power to weight ratio advantage, but it won't be much in it, and both bikes should be able to nudge 100 miles per hour, 160 km/h, but kph. But if the upside down forks and the monoshock do their job, the Sym may have the better feel as a sort of fast road bike. Now, both of these machines, though, are trumped by the next one. Here's yet another scooter. This is Voge's SR450X. It's not just because the 450X delivers more power than either the Aprilia or the Sym, but because it gets an extra cylinder too. Now, this bike also made its debut at E-Compressor 2025 in Milan a few weeks ago. And it's their entry into what they describe as the adventure scooter crossover segment. And despite the 450 tag, it's actually a 398cc liquid-cooled, fuel-injected twin-cylinder engine. And it delivers a decent 41.5 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 32.4 pound-feet of torque at 5,750 RPM. So it trumps both of the two singles. The design is said to max scooter convenience with adventure bike robustness, tubeless spoked wheels, 17-inch front and a 14-inch rear, semi-knobby tyres, an upright riding position and tall bodywork with an adjustable screen, gets high ground clearance and protective metal crash bars. There are also hand guards you can see on the ends of the bars, and it should be at least gently off-road capable, at least more rugged than the average maxi scooter. Given the price of bodywork, the crash bars are probably very, very useful indeed. Now, braking is handled by a mixed Jejuan and Nissan system. Suspension, upside down front forks, adjustable KYB shock at the rear. That does appear to be twin shock, so it looks like the engine is mounted on the swing arm. Other practical features include an aluminium luggage rack, and the underseat storage is said to fit 2 helmets, although it's not clear whether they are full face or just a pair of open face, which will take less room, of course. You do get full LED lighting, of course, keyless ignition, and there's also a lockable glove box. No word on prices for any of those 3 bikes, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Right, okay, what next to show you? Well, have a look at this one. It's not a butterfly, it's actually a self-charging solar motorcycle from Mask, and it's claimed to free riders from fuel or power networks. Now, the machine, not very originally dubbed Solaris, includes a high-torque electric motor, a regenerative electric braking system that recovers kinetic energy, and a lightweight aluminium carbon composite chassis engineered for rigidity and reduced weight. Now, the design integrates an intelligent solar energy management system that monitors the collection, storage, and distribution of the power generated in real time. Although I very much doubt you're going to be riding along with the solar panels stuck out like this. They fold up, as you've probably figured out. A digital cockpit, optional app connectivity. They provide performance data and solar charging metrics. Now, since it's self-charging, it's suggested that potential applications include remote areas and protected landscapes and developing communities. And rather oddly, since this is where you're most likely to find a plug-in option, and you're hardly likely to leave this thing parked somewhere with the panels displayed like this, urban programs focused on low emission transportation. But where the bike does score very, very heavily indeed is design speak gibberish. It's said to have a biomimetic design, which draws heavily from the anatomy of a leopard. And you can apparently see this in the stretched front geometry, the muscular frame, and the forward-leaning, ready-to-leap stance. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. And since it's silly season, let's round off with a couple more unlikely designs. This is the ant Formica. Don't ask me to explain the name other than to tell you that ants secrete formic acid. It's nasty, unpleasant stuff. It forms the basis of their stings, also bees actually as well. I believe it was originally the source of formaldehyde, one of the chemicals anyway, for making formaldehyde, which was used to produce the composite material Formica. Anyway, the thing folds up, although quite why anybody would want to use the name Formica for something that folds into a metallic look briefcase. So it's a carry it anywhere scooter. Why don't you just ride it? I'm sort of baffled by these designs sometimes. Anyway, no word on the possible range, performance, or weight, let alone cost. And I don't even know how to begin to categorize this. It's a wearable motorcycle. Yes, you heard that right. Rather than throw away the parts of his electric bicycle after he crashed it and destroyed it beyond repair, Jake Carlini, the designer of this particular mode of transport, decided that he would salvage the parts and replace the broken frame with his own body. So the rear wheel hub motor attaches directly to his legs. The battery is housed in a modified vest that has reinforced fabric, and the also it contains the wiring and the connectors which go from the battery to the rear wheel, obviously. And the front wheel is improvised around a pair of aero bars from a cycle, armrest pads, and pegs, which he appears to have his forearms resting on either side of the front wheel. That's presumably how he steers. I'm not entirely sure. The throttle is mounted on a grip to the right. Anyway, early test runs apparently showed the suit capable of reaching 20 miles per hour. Interestingly, there wasn't any word about the braking system that is fitted to this particular machine. Right, okay, moving on to the final item for today then. It's the deep dive into a topic of motorcycling interest. And the topic today is Honda's
V3R 900 E-Compressor motorcycle. It's being described as a major leap forward in motorcycling technology. But the question I want to pose today to you, is it actually aimed at delivering a powerful motorcycle now, or is it actually about future-proofing the internal combustion engine? So let's have a look at the prototype, which appeared at the Milan show. So let me just dig into that picture and show you it again. We've previously looked at the engine with its electronic compressor. I did actually wonder whether it was a real thing when I first saw it, because it did look like an AI image. But it turned into this bike, and people have seen it, so it is really enough to be a motorcycle, at least as a concept. Now, the design doesn't really look very different from anything else we've seen recently. It sort of has that droopy front end that Kawasaki are so fond of, but it does have a new tank badge apparently. But it's what's in the middle is the important thing, and this is the brand new 900cc water-cooled V3 engine, and it's set at a 75-degree angle, and it's paired with what Honda calls the world's first electronically controlled compressor for a motorcycle, implying, of course, that it has been done for cars before. Now, performance figures haven't been released, but it's stated that the aim is to deliver the torque and performance of a 1200cc motorcycle in a more compact, efficient and more responsive package, with the added bonus of better fuel economy and lower emissions. And of course, the compressor system is the key to that claimed goal. Now, instead of relying on traditional mechanical or exhaust driven boost, a supercharger or a turbocharger, the electric compressor operates independently of engine speed, and that provides the ability to sort of dial it up for instant and linear drive on demand. Now, it is an interesting piece of engineering, that's for sure, and it's similar in concept systems that have been used in F1 cars, or it's also in the new Porsche 911T hybrid apparently. And this use of an electric motor provides instant boost and eliminates the turbo lag that happens at low RPM. It's part of what the company describes as its non-rail roller coaster concept, whatever that means, more design gibberish talk, which is said to offer the excitement of high performance, but with a smooth, controllable ride that builds confidence rather than overwhelming it. So it remains a prototype for now, but Honda has confirmed that the project is under active development. Doesn't ever mean it will reach production, of course, but most of the chatter at the moment is connected with this e-compressor, allowing the bike to offer superbike levels of performance from a smaller, more manageable format, potentially reshaping expectations for high performance, naked and sports touring categories. But let's add a healthy dose of reality at that point. History is actually littered with failed attempts at forced induction motorcycles from the 1980s. Just about everybody had a crack at it. Even as recently as about 2010, Suzuki claimed to be bringing back a forced induction engine. We never saw any more of that beyond the concept. And the problems have always been issues surrounding packaging it all up, heat, and also cost and weight. Now, the e-compressor might solve the turbo lag problem, but it does introduce new trade-offs. Honda hasn't released any official horsepower figures. Everything seems to be speculation. There's no weight estimates. There's no fuel consumption data yet. But the physics of internal combustion engines are still bound by the laws of thermodynamics. If you put a sort of a gallon of petrol through an engine and you burn it, there is only a finite amount of energy that can come out of it. You can collect that energy more efficiently, which means a higher performing engine or lower power lower fuel consumption, but you can't have both. You might see efficiency gains at low throttle cruising speeds, for example, but the moment you demand that 1200cc performance, you're going to be burning more fuel because A, you've got to push that mass around, and B, more importantly,
particularly with a naked bike, you have to push it through the air. And aerodynamically, motorcycles are less effective than a brick. Seriously, if you actually measure the resistance to air flow of a brick, you'll find the motorcycle is actually worse. And of course, the moment you start creating complex systems like this, you start adding extra components. You now need the electric motor to run the fan. You need the control units, and presumably you're going to need a more robust electrical system to power it too. So, this only adds weight, and it adds complexity too. That means higher manufacturing costs, and it also likely means higher maintenance costs. So, when designers have tried to chase power in the past, it's almost always turned out to be easier, lighter, and simpler to go with a conventional engine and just make it bigger, basically. That's why we have sort of 1200 and 1300 and 1400 cc bikes now. On the one hand, I think there's a serious chance that this will just remain an engineering exercise designed to show off the fact that technically and strategically Honda can still make the headlines, even as China begins to chip away at their mid-range market. But something I haven't seen mooted anywhere yet is that because it's an electrically controlled compressor, it gives the engine active control over intake pressures and the mixture that is fed into the engine, unlike mechanical superchargers or turbos, which are bound directly to engine speed and the load. Now, this flexibility means that the system could likely adapt fueling and combustion parameters in real time. And this means, again, in theory at least, the engine could run on very different fuel sources like high ethanol gasoline, biofuels and e-fuels, even potentially hydrogen. And this matters because alternative fuels all burn differently. They can have lower energy density, they have different vaporization characteristics, some need more air than others, and some even need altered compression ratios to make efficient power. By using this electronically managed compressor, Honda could essentially fine-tune the air charge, the pressure, the timing, to keep the engine's torque and response reasonably consistent, regardless of what fuel you put into it. So it does open the door, I think, to multi-fuel operation, something Honda has already apparently been exploring quietly with small engines and generators for use in Asia. Now, of course, I might be totally wrong about all this, but my guess is that this V3R 900E concept bike is not all about headline performance, but it is Honda's way of future-proofing internal combustion via bridge technology that would let ICE bikes survive in a decarbonizing world, able to run cleanly and efficiently on whatever replaces today's fuel, at least for the next few years. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about that. I meant to give a shout out to Kevin, who's looked in. He says he's spinning plates, just taking a log delivery. Right, so that's it for today. Time to wrap up. Just before I go, quick reminder that my latest book is now available in ebook format, and you can buy that from my coffee shop. It's called Crash Scene Junction. It's a very short book, under 70 pages, because I actually want people to read it, because it tackles the most common crash of all. Wherever you go in the world, pretty much, the sorry mate, I didn't see you Smidsy collision between a driver and a rider at an intersection dominates the crash stats, and the book explains how they happen, why they happen, crucially, though, what actions the rider can take to spot the threat and reduce the risk too. Now, reading a book can't prevent you having a Smithy, of course, but it will go a long way towards helping you understand the crash, and that allows you to take the actions necessary to avoid or evade the collision. So that's it for today. Thank you very much indeed for watching. The You've been watching me, Kevin Williams of the Survival Skills Rider Training. This has been Elevenses. Join me for the next show next Sunday for another update on news, views, and biking tips. And if you're out there today enjoying a ride on your bike, make sure you stay shiny side up, and I will see you next time. If you enjoy these shows, why not become a member of my Ko-fi pages? Just follow the QR code and sign up. As a member, you get free access to the latest articles and the Survival Skills ebook shop with instant downloads of everything from free mini ebooks to ebook versions of my paperbacks. Become a one-off supporter and you'll open up the archive of over 1,000 articles. If you buy me a monthly cuppa as a subscriber, there's even more content to enjoy.